So happy to have you here, Sam.
Thank you.
We just saw each other for the first time in a while, and you have provided so much hope, inspiration, knowledge, practical advice, and like everything for how to be happier as a professional and as a person. I just want to thank you. And I'm sure a lot of people would join me in just thanking you.
I appreciate it. Well, I want to give thanks to God, and I've been trying to continue to bring it back to God. I think the last couple of years, as you grow and, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, saying, thanks to what I did or my efforts. But I think over time, as you get more mature, you realize, no, it's beyond you. A lot of this is beyond you. You got to have faith. You got to be a giver, and you got to have faith. And, the more that you put your dependence on God, I think the more that everything, grows from there.
For anybody that doesn't know you, I could just give a broad stroke, but I'd love to hear from you. Let me ask you, how do you think of yourself? Just as a broad question, what are you? Who is Sam Mollaei?
I'm into learning and growing constantly, and I see myself as somebody who's just consistent learner and grower, always optimizing every aspect of my life, and just do. And also see myself as a doer. I don't see myself as much of a talker, and sometimes I have to talk and I have to go through the motions just because it's part of my work sometimes or whatever it is. But ultimately, I like strategic planning, being smart. Pay to think is one of my company names, that kind of thing, and then bringing that vision and those ideas and those strategies and bring it down to real life. And then I surround myself with a bunch of other doers who are implementing everything that I share. And now the real world reality of that is I have 5 law firms that are pretty doing their thing. They're growing every day, their own teams and their own systems and their own automations and their own AI systems. And then on the back end, my passion project, something that I'm building long term and I've been doing, is my legal academy that helps spread this knowledge of how to grow, scale, and automate your law firm to other lawyers.
It's so hard for me to know where to go next, because even in that, there's just so much inspiration. And I think I want to take it back to where I was like 7 years ago. Maybe, when did you start putting out content?
Since I was 18.
But okay, so when did I become aware of
MySpace,
MySpace
days and LiveJournal.
Okay, so you've been putting out content forever. For me, I started your content along with D. Murthy, who we're in D. Murthy's. He's always been. He's the same type of person as you, right? D is the person that gives without any expectation, and he gets because he does that. And whether who knows what sometimes our true motivation is when we give, but I think what I've tried to learn from both you and D and others is to just give, and it comes back. And so D, shout out to D, he gave us this space. He, along with you, same time, I've known you both for a while, but I really, I look at you guys as mentors almost from afar, even though we've developed a personal relationship. My bigger relationship with you is from watching you, listening to you. I have devoured I like to think I've devoured almost every piece of content you've put out for the past 7 years. Everything, podcast, video, reading, and to me, it just never gets old. And so just to D and you guys started inspiring me with his podcast group chat, which he's letting us shoot from here with our guy Josh. Appreciate it, D.
Josh.
And Josh, I stole Josh from D, and D still with Josh is still with D, but we're in his amazing space. He's raised, $100+ million and has this amazing product called Ghost. And you kind of both gave me inspiration when I didn't have it. So my dad, who unfortunately passed away last year, was my number one motivator and inspiration in terms of work ethic. He was and will always be the hardest working man alive. It was just a known thing. First one in, last one out. And I carry that with me to this day. But in terms of living the actual lifestyle that I wanted to live, it was really hard for me to find anywhere in the legal space or anywhere where I could look to people and say, oh, I'd like to do something like that. And I struggled for a really long time as a traditional lawyer, and I was just unhappy. And so when I started to listen to you and to D and with his podcast and content, and you with your content, I started to believe it was inside of me. I wanted to make the change, but I heard your voices. And so I guess what I'd like to share with everybody is, I guess one of the hard parts that I have is I have a lot of people now. It's really beautiful. They come to me and they sort of want to ask questions, and I'm sure you have that times 100. I still have people in my life that come, but they're not ready. Like when is it hard for you to give advice to people? When is it hard, and where do you draw the line? Like, do people need to be in a certain place for you to give advice and to spend your time and energy?
So yeah, a lot of people are seeking advice and mentorship. Well, first of all, props to the people who actually are proactive and actually ask. And I actually noticed that. I was thinking about this today. One of the smartest guys that I know in my life is consistently asking experts in different fields, hey, can you help me? This guy is, a very successful guy. He has productivity down. He just texted me this morning, hey, Sam, can I learn productivity from you? I'm like, coming from you, like, that says a lot. So number one, be proactive, ask. You can never, lose out on by asking. Yes, at the same time, there are also a lot of people who want the advice and they don't do anything with it. So the question is, what's the conundrum? Should you give the advice? What should you do? And I think, ultimately, as a ultimate giver, then you have a responsibility to still give that advice. And I think the mindset is, as you said, like, give without expecting anything in return. And then also, don't tell people what to do, is also another good advice. Tell people how you've done it. And when people can see how easy it was for you, just the way you explain it so easily, that it's like this, and let me show it to you like this, and this is how I did it, that usually translates better for someone else to pick up on it, versus telling them, you got to do this. When you get, people don't like being told what to do, but when they see how you've done it, it's a little bit easier to digest.
So two people come to mind, two people that are very close to me, and they ask me things all the time. Have you seen it where people have just resisted, and then turned around? Like, what is it that you think people? Because I don't think so. Let me take a step back.
That's a good question.
I've learned so much from you, and so many technical things. Like basically spreadsheets, automation, delegation, the Tim Ferriss style of lawyering, using Loom. There's I can't even start. There's so many things. And you are the one person I ever paid to take your course, and you insisted that I pay, and I'm happy that I paid. Yeah. And so there's so much that I learned, but I think the biggest thing I've learned from you is the mindset, and it's really helped cultivate this change, the shift in mindset that lawyers need. Maybe just speak to what is it? Why is that what I'm looking towards as opposed to like, hey, and I want you to talk about my legal academy and all that stuff, but like, why am I focused more on the bigger picture? Help explain to the audience what you taught me about mindset.
So in regards to your first question, there are some people that are open-minded versus people that are not as open-minded. And I found in my life, and I see it, especially when I have a relationship with somebody for 15 years and I see their growth or their change. And some people are just the consistent B workers who just like being told what to do, and you do that, kind of coloring in the lines. And then there's people that are, outside the box thinkers, more open to growing, more creative thinking outside the box. And those people are more receptive to listening to your advice and growing. So again, there's no issues with both. God made us in different varieties and different forms. You got to lean to your strength. If you're like that, great. Then surround yourself with the people who are the creative thinkers. And if you're the creative thinkers, surround yourself with the kind of the structured kind of people. So you got to know who you are.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, I think to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit of a creative thinker, because when I come into work every day, I have things that are non-negotiables, but I look at things differently. I think one of the bigger things you taught me, just one of the things, is like, I never want to do the same thing twice. So if I'm about to do something, is there a way where I can make it so that I never do this again? It may be that if I put out the fire, it may take 10 minutes, but if I want to put out 1,000 fires going forward, it may take 2 hours. So I invested 2 hours where somebody be like, I'm going to waste 2 hours on that. So I think in what that risk, it goes back to risk, like what you perceive to be risk. I think there are attorneys out there that they perceived, moving from hourly to contingency being a huge risk. How have you looked at risk, and how has your idea of risk shaped over time?
It's a mindset. It's an affirmation that I started saying to myself since a couple of years ago, which is the biggest risk is not taking a risk. The biggest risk is not taking a risk. I'm a little bit more risk friendly. What is that? What's that word? Not averse. What's the opposite of?
Yeah, you're the opposite of risk.
Right. Opposite of risk averse. So I'm more
risk tolerant.
Yeah, I'm pretty
risk excited.
Yeah. I like risk because it also leads to change, and change usually, if you're in the right direction, leads to positive change. But that's me. I forgot we're leaving.
Okay, let's talk about so let's just give the core principles of business in your mind. Like what if everybody sort of chat GPT'd the history of every piece of content, what are the three biggest things that you would want people to take away?
I'll break it down to one: leverage. Business is just leverage. How much leverage are you going to build? And leverage could be in the form of marketing, could be in the form of your team, could be form of content, could be form of tech, AI, automations. It's basically just comes down to what is your input compared to what's the output on the other side. And I'm very mindful of that, how much first output is coming out of this action that I'm doing, and then how would I be able to do that with the least minimal amount of work, whether that be tapping into my team, the content. If I produce this piece of content that could be distributed, all that stuff. Ultimately, I think you can summarize all of it into leverage.
Okay, how? Not that you need this, but and you don't like to talk about yourself, but give people a little bit of an idea of like the success. A little bit of an idea. I know you don't like to talk about it. Just a little bit. You give us a little bit, because as you say, people need to see that social proof and all that stuff. And I just want people to understand that don't know you. And again, I know you're a humble person, but give us something that you feel comfortable with.
So one is I replaced the definition in my vocabulary recently of success to growth.
Okay.
So no more success. There's no such thing. Because if anything, the more you think you get closer to success, the more likely that you're probably not successful. But like a visual representation was just really recently. Let's say last week, I went on a family trip to Bahamas.
Yeah.
And 5 days, I did not touch my computer. I don't have a computer first of all. And I did not go on Slack on my phone or do anything. Zero. And I had at the same time 6 operations that were running and growing. That is what I considered something that's amazing. It's something that's not just operating, but actually growing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that requires a lot of built-up work to get to that point. An amazing team to make that happen. People that I can trust with my heart and with my soul and everything that I have to get there. Sometimes good partners to fill in the holes. Just doesn't happen magically. Mm-hmm. But that in my head, having that control of freedom, but I mean necessarily needing to tell anybody, ask anybody, can I go or check my schedule? Right. I could just kind of plan ahead within like 2 days. I think if I like front load the work, just the 2 days prior, take care of that, and then just leave on the trip, be mentally in the moment with my kids, with my wife, learn. I'm like constantly, even on trips, and constantly still watching my YouTube videos and big Bitcoin videos and learning about that. Just learning, that is for me is like my happiness.
The relationship with your wife. You talk about it, and I just have the impression that you have this incredible relationship. No relationship is perfect. What do you do to work on your relation? What do you do to work on yourself as a husband to be the best husband you can be, and also as a father to your kids?
So no, by all means, I don't think anybody has got it all down. What I try to do is I try to learn as much as I possibly can about a good marriage. For us, we have the Torah, and there's books from the Torah that's based on that. And then, you do your best. I think something that's very important for us, one is Shabbat, that once a week we're completely checked out for 25 hours. We're together at all in every
How hard is that for you?
No, not hard at all. It's the highlight of the week. But we could talk about it like the importance of Shabbat. And then the second thing is something that we do. Actually, and yeah, there's a second and third thing. Second thing is we have dinner every night together, which is so super nice. And we used to be in the beginning, in front of the TV, but now we kind of brought that over, just sit at the dining room table and have dinner every single night. And then third is I'm blessed enough to work at home, which is not easy for most people. But for me, I always thrived at working in my own space at home, in my pajamas. But the benefits of that is, get to have some time in the morning to play with my cute girls, play with them throughout the day. Sometimes they come in and play with them during that time, and then lunch, and then throughout at 2 p.m. So I got that little, I don't have to wait until 5 or 6 p.m. to get at home to play with them.
What have we learned about life being a parent?
How to give unconditionally. I think no person could get to their full potential until they have kids. So it might be a little controversial to say, but even politicians who don't have kids, I don't think they could run a country, because if you don't know what it's like to be responsible for an adult and to learn how to give and how to train somebody to be a nice, good person. It affects every other aspects of your life, your business, your relationships with your coworkers, all that stuff. So I don't think anybody's ever, fully tapped their potential until they have kids.
So that's your relationship with your wife and kids, which is arguably pretty much is the most important relationships you have in your life. Other relationships, whether it's business, friendships, or even anywhere in your life, parents, cousins, whatever. What are your guiding principles in terms of what a relationship should and shouldn't be?
I think one principle that always stands out, especially recently, the last couple of years, is dropping all expectations. As we're in relationships, we have some best friends from college. We have some best friends that we recently became friends with. We have certain expectations. They should have said this to me. They should have done this for me. It's my birthday. One day they text me. All this stuff I found over time. These are all things in your head. And the more that you kind of drown yourself out in these thoughts, the more you'll become a worse friend. And then at that point, relationships will get looser and looser and weaker, and you'll end up losing more friends with those thoughts. So instead, zero expectation. Be a good person, still say hi, check in, still check in, be a good person, do whatever you can, but with zero expectations for my friends.
And what about the non-negotiables in terms of, if you do this, you're just not going to have space in my life? Is there anything like that you hold?
No, again, that falls into the expectations. Even if they do that, you still have the decision to make whether you want to continue being friends or not.
Yeah.
You can still, also the other thing, mindset principle is you got to be very particular and picky with who your friends are. It's the people that you necessarily grew up with in high school and college doesn't necessarily mean you have to be friends as you grow up.
Who do you want to be around?
Yeah.
Let me say it a different way.
Who do you want to be around?
Who are you around?
Who are you
around? Because you have your wife and kids, and this is I remember one of the first things you ever told me was, I think I asked you to go to lunch, and you almost laughed. You're like, no chance. That's not scalable.
I would love to. I usually say I would love to. I actually said it this morning to someone else. I always feel bad. I'm like, I would love to.
But who are you around? You're around all of us on our screens all day, but who are you actually spending time with?
Yeah, and Benji, the other aspect is I actually have so many online friends. I know it's not as connected in person, but I have so many amazing good friends online, my media buyers, my directors and team members, different people that I met online, and those special relationships that I get to finally meet in person. It's I feel like, I've been best friends with them for so long, so I cherish those as well.
So, okay, so that's who you're around. Okay, this concept of, it's been a very big thing for me. And a lot of this stuff, just whenever I hear it, I'm like, Sam has either talked about this or this is a Sam type of deal. Abundance over scarcity. how have you found a way to live in abundance? And where do you think people struggle with scarcity?
So I think it came from, for me, it came from, I think my parents, one or both of my parents came from a scarcity mentality. And that could be for multiple reasons, maybe from, culturally or based on the country that they're from, all that stuff. So I kind of saw what it was like to not have an abundance mentality. So I chose to kind of look at things abundantly, and just think of the infiniteness of God is a good way to put it. That there's plenty to go around. There's plenty to achieve. There's plenty to do. There's plenty of connections to make. And it's not a zero, don't look at the world as a zero-sum game.